You ever had someone come at you, chest puffed out, all high and mighty, thinking they got you cornered, thinking they're about to ruin your day? Yeah, that's exactly what was happening to me that afternoon. I was standing in my own damn driveway wiping down my '77 Harley Davidson when I heard it, "Hey, hey, you! What the fuck do you think you're doing?" I look up, and storming toward me like a goddamn freight train was Doug, HOA president, 50-something, bald, sweaty, khakis pulled up too high like he was compensating for something. He had that clipboard of doom in one hand and a face redder than a fire truck. Behind him, his little goon squad, 3 other board members, all nodding like bobbleheads. "You got 3 noise complaints already, asshole," he barked, jabbing a finger at my bike. 3? And now you're out here revving that fucking thing again? I let out a slow breath, gripping the rag in my hand. "Doug," I said real calm, "I haven't even turned the engine on. I'm just cleaning it." "Bullshit," he yells. "I heard it. My wife heard it. The whole fucking neighborhood heard it. This is a quiet community. You and that goddamn motorcycle do not belong here." Now, let me pause right there. See, that's when I knew this wasn't just about noise. This was personal. Doug didn't just hate my bike. He hated that I had it, that I existed in his neighborhood. And that's when I decided I wasn't going to just let this slide. At this point, people were watching. Lawn chairs had magically appeared. Some of the neighbors were sipping iced tea like this was the goddamn Super Bowl. Then, cue Karen, 1, stepping out of her house, robe tied too tight, arms crossed. "That motorcycle is a disgrace," she spat. "It's scaring my dog. You should be ashamed of yourself." And then there was Karen, 2, standing in a doorway like some villain in a soap opera. "Honestly, it's so low class," Doug grinned, feeling the support. "You hear that? You're a fucking nuisance, man. You got 2 options, sell the bike, or we'll make your life hell." And just like that, I smiled. You ever have that moment where you realize your opponent is so goddamn stupid they just handed you the win? That was this moment. I leaned on my bike real slow, taking my time. "So, let me get this straight. You're threatening me? Trying to bully me into getting rid of my bike, even though I haven't actually broken a single rule?" Doug scoffed. "Oh, we're way past threats, buddy. We're making this official. You got 24 hours before we start slapping you with fines. And trust me, we'll find your ass into the ground." I nodded, pretending to think it over. "All right, sounds like a plan. But before we get to that, I got just one question for you, Doug." He sneered, crossing his arms. "Yeah? What?" I let the silence stretch, let the tension hang in the air. Then I smiled wider and said, "Doug, do you know who the fuck I am?" His face twitched. "What? Like, actually know who I am?" He squinted at me, gears turning in that tiny brain of his. "I don't give a shit who you are." See, Doug, that is your first mistake. At this point, the entire neighborhood was dead silent. Everyone was waiting. Doug was waiting, and me, I was just getting warmed up, because Doug didn't realize that the CEO of Harley Davidson had just moved in next door. Doug's smug grin disappeared the second I said those words. You could see the wheels turning, but there weren't enough working brain cells in that oversized bald head of his to put it together. "Do I know who you are?" he muttered, like the question itself offended him. "No, and I don't give a shit." I laughed, actually laughed, right in his sweaty, HOA-ridden face. "Oh, Doug," I said, shaking my head. "That's the thing about small men in big positions. You think you run the world, but you don't even know what world you're living in." I took a step forward, slow, deliberate. I saw his jaw clench. He was used to people backing down. I didn't. "You think you're about to ruin my day, huh?" I said, voice dripping with amusement. "Let me tell you something, Dougie boy. This motorcycle? This loud machine that offends your fragile little HOA sensibilities? This bike has more fucking history than your entire goddamn neighborhood. Doug scoffed, but I saw his hand tighten around that clipboard. The man was rattled. You're just some punk with a bike, he spat, and we have the authority to— Do you? I snapped, cutting him off so hard the entire crowd flinched. Dramatic pause. Let the words settle. Let the tension stretch like a noose tightening. I took another step forward, and now? Now Doug backed up, just a little. You have the authority to do what, Doug? I asked, leaning in just enough to make him uncomfortable. Find me? Write me up? Bullshit your way through some HOA technicality? I ripped the letter from his clipboard so fast he physically jumped. I held it up, turning to the crowd. This, I said, waving it around, is a scare tactic. A weak-ass, desperate attempt to bully someone who doesn't bow down to you. Doug's face burned red. You can't just— Shut the fuck up, Doug. Let that hit. Let the power shift. Silence. Absolute silence. And then, snickering from the crowd, someone chuckled. Someone else whispered, Holy shit. Doug looked around, seeing the grip slipping from his greasy little fingers. His minions, his little bobblehead yes-men, weren't looking so confident anymore. But Doug? Doug still had one move left, and it was a fucking mistake. You think this is funny? He exploded, voice going from angry to outright desperate. You think you're untouchable just because you ride around on that? And then he did it. Doug lifted his leg and kicked my bike. The solid thunk of his loafer hitting chrome echoed in the still air. The gasps from the crowd? Instant. My heart? Steady as steel. Doug had just signed his own fucking death certificate. I looked down at my bike. Not a scratch. Thank God for quality craftsmanship. But that wasn't the point. I turned back to him, slow, like a lion deciding how hard to maul its prey. Doug swallowed. He knew. You just fucked up, Doug. You just fucked up bad. Now I could have snapped. Could have lit him up right then and there. But that's not how you win wars. I inhaled. Real slow, let the rage settle into something colder. All right, Doug, I said, voice even. You want to play games? You want to push this? I pulled my phone out, and I knew he thought I was calling a lawyer. Nope. I pulled up a document. A very specific document. You ever read the HOA bylaws, Doug? His nostrils flared. Of course I have. Oh? Have you? I swiped the screen. Then tell me, what's the exact decibel limit for vehicles in this neighborhood? He opened his mouth, closed it. I smirked. See, Doug? There isn't one. It's all vague language about community standards. No actual legal limits, just interpretation. And you know what happens when you leave laws up to interpretation? I turned the phone to face him. A lawsuit document. Drafted. Ready. It leaves room for legal fucking action, Doug sputtered. You wouldn't. Oh, I would. I took a step closer. I'd love nothing more than to watch this HOA burn itself to the fucking ground in a lawsuit so big, so public, that every single one of your precious home values drop overnight. The crowd murmured. People shifted. And Doug? Doug cracked. This is ridiculous, he barked. You think you can just— Doug, I said, deadly calm. Do you know who I am yet? He froze. The crowd went dead quiet. I let the moment stretch, let him marinate in his own fucking stupidity. Then I smiled. I'm the CEO of Harley Davidson, motherfucker. The reaction was instant. Gasps. A genuine scream from Karen. To Doug. Doug looked like he'd been shot in the stomach. Oh, I added, grinning. And I know a little thing or two about legal battles. You want to keep playing, Dougie? Let's play. Doug looked around, saw his allies backing away, saw his HOA empire fucking crumbling, and then he did the only thing a man like Doug could do. He panicked. You can't do this, he shouted, voice cracking. This isn't over. Oh, I said, smirking. I think it is. Doug stood there, stunned. The kind of stunned where the brain wants to fight, but the body already knows it's lost. The crowd, frozen. The HOA board members, visibly uncomfortable. But Doug was not done embarrassing himself yet. You think you can pull some big-shot power move? He spat, desperation seeping through his voice. You think your fancy title means shit to us? This is a residential community, not a goddamn biker gang. I tilted my head, gave him a slow, cold smile. Doug, I said, voice like fucking steel, did you just call the CEO of Harley Davidson a fucking gang member? Doug's eyes widened. He knew he had just fucked up harder than he ever had before. I didn't mean, he stammered, his voice cracking. No, Doug, I said, stepping forward. Say it again. Go ahead. Say it loud enough for all these good people to hear. Say it loud enough so I can send it to every single goddamn journalist who would love to write a story about a bunch of elitist HOA pricks discriminating against motorcycles and their riders. Doug's face went from red to white so fast he looked like a goddamn candy cane. Karen number 2, she physically stepped away from him. The whispering started, the murmuring. People were realizing Doug wasn't the alpha in this conversation anymore. I was. Doug didn't say another word that night. He stormed off, shaking, probably ready to scream into his pillow until he fell asleep. But I knew he wasn't going to take the loss like a man. No, a man like Doug, he was the kind of guy who went home, took one long look in the mirror and said, I'm not the problem, they the problem. And sure enough, the very next morning I woke up to a brand new violation notice taped to my door. $500 fine for unapproved vehicle storage in the driveway. I laughed. Actually laughed. Oh, Doug, you sad, petty little bitch. I walked out, stretched, and sure enough, there he was. Doug, standing on the sidewalk, arms crossed, waiting for me to react. I held up the fine. Really? This is your move? He smirked, like he thought he had something. It's our regulations, buddy, he sneered. We don't allow motorcycles to be stored outside. Gotta be in a garage. I glanced around. There were at least 4 other vehicles parked in other people's driveways. A goddamn jet ski? A fucking boat. So, Doug, I assume you fined all of them, too? His smirk wobbled. This is an official violation. He tried again, weakly. I stepped right up to him, holding up my phone, the camera already recording. So just to clarify, I said, voice clear, strong, loud enough for everybody watching, this fine is being applied selectively to me and only me, correct? While other residents are allowed to keep vehicles on their driveways. Doug's jaw clenched so hard I thought his teeth might fucking snap. And then, the biggest fucking gift I could ask for. One of his own board members spoke up. Doug, he's got a point, said mildly reasonable HOA Guy 3, rubbing the back of his neck. Doug whipped around. Shut the fuck up, Greg. Ooh, he fucked up. Now he's turning on his own people. You ever see a crack start to form in a wall? It's small at first, barely noticeable, but once it starts, it spreads fast as hell. Doug had just yelled at his own board, and just like that, the HOA wasn't a solid front anymore. People were watching, talking, whispering, and me? I was fueling the fire. You know, Doug, I said, nice and easy, this is feeling a lot like targeted harassment. I mean, it'd be a real shame if, I don't know, the county office got wind of some HOA overreach? Or maybe a nice viral story hit the news about a board president using his power for personal vendettas. Doug's eye twitched. He knows I'm not bluffing. Karen. One looked at Karen, uncertain. Greg, the guy Doug just yelled at us, and then the final domino fell. This isn't fair, someone muttered. Not me, not Doug, one of the residents. I turned. It was a woman. Mid-40s, arms crossed, staring at Doug like he was dog shit on her shoe. My son has a motorcycle, she said, voice sharp. Are you going to fine us too? Doug asked. Fucked. Doug tried to scramble, tried to justify, tried to cling to the last bits of his authority. But it was too late. More people spoke up. More people turned against him. The final nail? Greg, the same board member he yelled at? He stepped forward, shaking his head. I'm calling a vote, Greg announced. A board vote to revoke this violation because Doug is clearly abusing his power. Doug's eyes nearly popped out of his fucking skull. You can't just... I can, Doug, Greg snapped, because I actually read the goddamn bylaws. And just like that, Doug was fucking done. I stood there, arms crossed, watching his entire kingdom crumble. The fines? Gone. The neighborhood turned against him, the board overruling him. Doug, a broken fucking man. And me? I just smiled. See you at the next HOA meeting, Doug. Doug was bleeding out, not literally, though with the way he looked you'd think I had put a bullet through his pride. His own people turned against him. His neighborhood saw him for the fraud he was, and his HOA dictatorship crumbling. But men like Doug, they don't go down quietly. No, they always make one last desperate move. And this was it. The HOA meeting was standing room only. Word had spread. People came out like it was a goddamn pay-per-view fight. And Doug was sweating bullets. I could see it. The fake-ass smile, the twitch in his jaw. He was holding on by a thread, and we both knew it. And then the first bomb dropped. Ladies and gentlemen, Doug announced, voice strained. Before we get into tonight's agenda, we have an urgent matter to discuss. Oh, I know that voice. That's the voice of a man who just had his soul stomped on and is about to lie his ass off to save himself. Doug took a deep breath, like he was about to reveal some great, shocking truth, and then he fucking said it. I regret to inform you all that Mr. Protagonist's name has been engaging in fraudulent activity to avoid HOA regulations. The room? Dead silent. Even the Karens weren't nodding this time, and me, I just stared at him. Expression blank, heartbeat steady, because this was it. Doug's last stand. Doug cleared his throat, shuffling his papers I knew were just bullshit theatrics. Yes, he continued, forcing confidence into his cracking voice. After an extensive review, we have reason to believe that Mr. Protagonist's name has been operating under false pretenses in order to... Nah, fuck that. Time to cut his legs out. I pushed back my chair loud as hell and stood up. Doug flinched. Oh, you feel that? Don't you, Doug? That feeling in your gut? That's fear. I didn't look at him. Not yet. Instead, I turned to the crowd. So let me get this straight, I said, voice calm. After weeks of targeting me, of fining me, of trying to bully me out of this neighborhood, Doug's master plan is to say I don't actually live here? I saw heads shake, I saw eyes narrow, and I saw doubt. Doug rushed to save it. The HOA has reviewed multiple sources of information. Which ones? I cut him off. He froze. Excuse me? Which sources, Doug? I took a step forward. Show me the proof. He hesitated. Too long. This motherfucker had nothing and everyone could see it. Someone in the back chuckled. Doug, you got nothing? A voice shouted. More murmurs. More whispers. Doug's face was pure panic. I took a deep breath and let it out slow. Then I turned back to Doug. I gave you chances, I said, low and even. I let you dig your little hole. I let you play your little power game. I let you take your shot. I pulled out my wallet, flipped it open, and slapped my driver's license on the table. It was silent as death. Doug? He looked at it like it was a loaded pistol aimed at his head. That right there, I said, tapping the ID, is legal proof that I live here. It's state-issued, verified, and binding. So you tell me, Doug, what the fuck was your extensive review based on? Doug's mouth opened. Nothing came out. I stepped closer. Go on, I pressed. Tell the room. We're waiting. This was the moment. The slow, beautiful fucking realization. And then came the final kill shot. Or maybe, I said, letting my words drag, you weren't expecting me to fight back. Maybe you thought you could just make up some shit and have people take your word for it. Doug's entire body sagged. He looked around. The board, the crowd, nobody had his back. And that's when he knew he was fucking done. This is ridiculous. Doug tried one last time, voice weak. No, Doug, I said, stepping forward until we were nose to nose. This is you getting caught. And then the floodgates opened. I've had enough of this bullshit, someone shouted. This is harassment, Doug. You're making us all look bad. This guy's lived here for months. What the fuck are you even talking about? Doug took one step back, then another. He was losing control, fast. Greg, the board member who had turned against him before, crossed his arms. I think it's time for a vote, he said, voice cool. A vote to remove Doug as HOA president. The room fucking uprated. Doug whipped around to his board members. They were already nodding. His own allies, turning on him. Doug's mouth opened, and for the first time ever, nothing came out. That, right there, that was the end. The real fucking end. 1 week later, Doug was gone, removed, humiliated. The HOA board, scrambling to fix their reputation. And me, I was still right fucking here, riding my Harley down the street, loud and proud, neighbors waving, Karens sipping their wine in defeat. And as I passed Doug's house, I honked, long, loud, petty as fuck. And that was the sound of victory. Doug is gone. The HOA is broken. But the war isn't over yet. This final part, it's about the aftermath, the long-term consequences, the final ride. Doug vanished after the meeting. Not literally, I wish, but the man still had a house here, still had to walk these streets with a stink of failure on him. But the best part? The very next morning, his HOA title was stripped. A formal resignation letter was submitted. Yeah, right. That shit was forced. And by the time the next newsletter went out, the official announcement was brutal. Effective immediately, Douglas is no longer serving as HOA's president due to community concerns regarding fair and impartial leadership. Oh shit, they didn't even let him make a graceful exit. And you know what made it better? They sent out the newsletter with his full email attached. You ever seen a man get ratioed in real life? The flood of emails this man got? It was biblical. Where's my refund for those bullshit fines? How do I file a complaint against you? How does it feel to lose? Doug deleted his email account by the end of the week. Gone, just like his power. Now, here's the thing. I could have just walked away, left the HOA to clean up their own mess. But I didn't. Because I wanted to make sure this shit never happened again. So, guess what? I ran for HOA board. Yeah, me. The guy who Doug tried to find into the dirt. And guess what? I won. Unanimously. Let that sink in. The same people who watched me roll into this neighborhood on a Harley, they put me in charge. And my first order of business, a full review of every bullshit fine, violation, and policy Doug had ever passed. And let me tell you, the corruption was wild. He had been pocketing fees by hiring his friends to do neighborhood maintenance. He had been waiving violations for his own buddies while screwing over everyone else. And the biggest sin of all? He tried to ban motorcycles outright, even though the state laws said he couldn't. That's right. The entire crusade against me built on bullshit. And the best part? HOA board members turned on each other. The rats started snitching. I told Doug that rule wouldn't hold up. Doug was the one who pushed the fines. We were just following orders. The entire corrupt system collapsed. And me? I had one final move left. I abolished every bullshit fine Doug ever issued. Over $20,000 refunded back into the pockets of homeowners. And that was the final nail in the coffin. Doug, he lasted 2 months after the collapse. And man, those 2 months, brutal. No more fake power, no more fear. People spoke to him differently. Or worse, didn't speak to him at all. His wife stopped showing up to community events, his friends disappeared, and one day, his house went up for sale. He's done. The man couldn't even show his face anymore. And on moving day, you know I had to say something. I waited, right on my porch, arms crossed, watching. Doug was loading boxes, trying to keep his head down. I let him finish, let him think he was going to leave without one last reminder. And right as he was about to get in his car, I revved my bike, loud as hell. Doug? He jumped. His wife flinched. The last thing he ever saw before driving away, me, sitting on my Harley, smiling. The neighborhood changed, not overnight, not all at once, but the fear was gone. People spoke up more. The HOA actually started helping people instead of harassing them, and the motorcycle rule permanently removed. Now, every once in a while, I'll see another biker cruise through, a new guy, a new family. They ride freely now, and every time, I just nod, because they have no idea what it took to make that possible. But I do, and I wouldn't change a damn thing. Here's what I learned. People like Doug, they always exist. They find little thrones to sit on. They use bullshit rules to keep control. And most people just accept it. But here's the truth. Bullies only have power if you let them. Doug thought he could find me into submission. He thought he could bully me into selling my bike. He thought he could lie his way out, when it all went to hell, and in the end, he lost everything. All because one person refused to back down. And that's all it takes. I still ride my Harley through that neighborhood, loud, proud, and every time, I make sure to give the engine a good deep rev. Not because I need to, not because I have to, but because I fucking can. And that is the sweetest victory of all. Then, one final line. See you on the road.